We're here in Cyprus on family vacations, and I just wanted to show you what I brought along, the X-T30. Let's see if it really is the baby X-T3 that everybody's saying it is. I had planned to do a lot more pieces to camera like this, but you don't need to see me, and frankly I had a really rough, I don't think you could call it night sleep, because they decided to resurface the entire road outside during the night, and it literally felt like the building was going to come down, and all I could do was go out and test the low light again of the T30 like a complete loser, but no sleep was happening. So frankly I'm just going to relax, take it easy and get back to you. And yeah, when you travel you don't really want to take a fat lot, well at least I don't, and I've even brought more than I probably needed to. We're still messing about with this poor man's XF10 to 24, the EFS from Canon, 10 to 18. It's got STM, it's got stabilization, and with the Fringer I feel that it works a treat, but you'll definitely be able to tell which shots came out of this. But I'm also using the 35-1.4. Yep, no weather resistance, so the sand and water could be a bit awkward, but I'm not planning to go that extreme. But this should be a nice little standard fast little number, so look out for that too. When I'm shooting around like this, I flick between bracket 1 and currently bracket 2. Bracket 1 has a film simulation with ProNeg High, Astia, which I'm tending to lean towards on this trip, and Acros Red. Now the bracket 2, the only difference is I've changed ProNeg High for Eterna just to see if I can have a little play with that, but frankly I'm loving the warm images from Astia at the moment. When I want to switch the video, I'll just flick there to the shutter speed that matches with my frame rate. So I'm currently, I think, set to 60 frames per second, so the closest I can get is 1/25. Now with the low light stuff I'm dropping it down to 24 frames per second, and so I'm going to, well on here it's a 60, so there we go, and then I can play with the aperture from that. Nice and simple and quick to move across. Of course this will flick into APS-C when I jump into video mode and I'm in single shot otherwise. When you're traveling around Cyprus, there's always a very old building. This one from the Byzantine period, I believe, but no historian. But what I do know is these things are solidly built. So I've got to mention, in a rather cheesy segue, the build quality of the T30. It's up there with the rest of the Fujifilm bodies. Solid little number, magnesium alloy body, 383 grams with the battery and the SD card, and it's a nice compact little number. Obviously, depending on the lens you put on, that can change your profile, but as a starter, especially for traveling, absolutely superb build quality. Now they have messed about a little bit on the back. They've added a joystick, which is very nice. Mine seems to be sticking. I don't know if that's the high 30s temperature that I'm dealing with out here. They've took away the D-pad, which is taking a little getting used to for me personally, as I've used most of the X series bodies out there and some of them professionally, so I'm quite used to that, but I'm sure I'd get used to the lack of it. That Q button, we'll mention it later. So far, let me just say, it hasn't been such a big deal, but I look forward to the time when you can just disable it. I imagine Fujifilm will do that. Enough people have cried about this, but it hasn't annoyed me that much. I have picked it up occasionally, and I've been on the quick menu, but I've just half pressed the shutter, I'm good to go. But yeah, I'll let you know a little bit later on about that. Solid build though, very happy with that. Of course, the T30 has that beautiful 26.1 megapixel APS-C BSI backside illuminated sensor, very nice. And if you're a 4K shooter, you're getting a no crop 30 frames per second. Would it be nice to have 60? Maybe, whatever. You can shoot 8-bit to the SD card, or if you're inclined to shoot externally, you can get 10-bit. Very, very nice, very capable. I'll probably say it again, but you've only got a 2.5 jack for the mic, so that could be something you need to carry extra to what you normally carry day to day. Maybe, no biggie, maybe, but I keep losing mine, frankly. You've got a very nice 425 point phase detect autofocus system. Great improvement with this from previous models, but it doesn't mean that your 20 or your 10 are outdated unless you're a super fast shooter, and then you might not be looking at a camera like this, but frankly you really can. You can shoot 8 frames per second, no problem. You've got sports finder mode. We're not comparing this to a Sony. Everywhere you look on the internet about any camera, a Sony user pops up and says, well, what about this Sony, which generally is not even anything to do with the camera the forum or whatever is talking about. Now people talk about the A6400. I haven't really played with it, and I'm sure it's a cracking camera. There's pros and cons to them both, and someone will probably say in the comments, oh, the Sony A6400 is better, when they haven't even used either of them. Not a snob, love my Fujifilms, not going to hate on the Sony at all, but I still think this has that feel that I personally want, and the tech is pushing up. There's definitely pushing the Sony. There's definitely an argument for this over the A6400 if you're not a snobby loser. No. Anyway, I've been trying to get you some slow motion clips, but frankly life out here is so slow anyway. But basically the 1080 120 frames per second 200 megabits is more than enough for a camera like this. This is a 5 times slow motion. There are a few below that too if you prefer to work at a different frame rate, for example, but very nice. And it's accessible when you flick into movie mode. If you've set your movie mode to have the high speed version, then you're good to go. Me and the T30 are genuinely in the middle of the sea. Stretching it to say that, I mean, there's literally sea all around me. I'm not that tall, so anyway. So it's probably a good time to pack this up, as this is not a weather resistant setup by any stretch, and this could go terribly wrong. But let's just say this deserves a lot more playing around. Oftentimes you hear a review read a review, see a review, and it's frankly obvious they've barely used the thing. Now we know these are cracking cameras, we know they're super capable, and it's a personal thing too. So let me get back to the UK if I really must, and we're going to use it on some more serious work. And I think the stills and the vids will still be from this trip, frankly, but we're going to resume this when I've had time to calm down, because, well, holiday mode, lack of sleep, and I'm really enjoying it, of course. See you back in the cold. Well, I'm back into the swing of things in the real world, so I can calmly let you know what I think about the camera. First of all, let's talk about the cons. Well, if you look on the internet, there's a whole bunch of cons that people talk about. So, you know, let's just mention no dedicated ISO dial. I could live with that. Video at 4K is restricted to 10 minutes to avoid overheating. Now, that wasn't an issue for me. You do get a little bit more grip than on the previous model. For me, it's not a big deal, but this isn't something you probably want to be holding for a particularly long period of time, but that's the nature of the beast with a smaller camera. Of course, that little thumb wedge there, the Q button, yeah, it's annoying, but it's not the put off that you've probably read about. And I should imagine, as we've said, with all the moaning, Fujifilm will find a way of disabling it or whatever, I would assume. As we mentioned, no weather sealing might be an issue for you, but it worked fine in the 35-degree heat for the whole week. Occasionally it brought up the overheating sign, but it didn't decide to just shut off straight away. I just gave it a little rest and I was away. I didn't miss anything. Wasn't an issue for me. Another one that we mentioned earlier, the 2.5mm jack still annoys me completely, but now you can monitor audio via the USB-C socket, so that's a pretty cool addition there. It's not necessarily a necessary upgrade for the T20 users out there that are still faithfully using it. Not an issue at all. You could take advantage of a bit more grip perhaps. Battery life decent with this. I didn't have to change battery the whole time, so you know, just carry batteries or charge up in between shoots if you're traveling or whatever via the USB. Not an issue at all. I do like that joystick. Still not used to the lack of the D-pad, but I think I can get over that. I can live with that. My joystick was sticking occasionally. That could be a heat issue, but it didn't slow me down particularly. Maybe it was down to the 35-degree heat, not entirely sure. But the actual functionality is fine. The touchscreen works a treat. One of the biggest improvements is that amazing 100% PDAF face detection autofocus. Very sweet. Very nice. Even with the older lenses, you saw I was using a 35 1.4. Now I've got the 18 to 55 on there, and yes, it's not a video about what's the best travel setup, but this lens would be my one lens choice for travel. But that's just, again, a personal thing. Even with the very quick videos that I did, I was able to grade the touch if need be. There was enough range going on there without going f-log, without going to the ultra limits of the file potential. So very happy for that. I'm not going to be shooting serious video with it, but it did go as my B camera on a recent video shoot, a secret proposal, and absolutely fine, no bother whatsoever. As you saw, I enjoyed the 1080p, 120 frames per second, 200 megabits per second, I think you call it. That was also a nice little treat. I would like a quick way to flick between the normal movie mode and the slow motion. If anybody knows, let us know in the comment below. I should have a little look and a little play, or I've forgotten something if there is an option out there. But anyway, that would have been handy for me too. Also a little shout out, if you like to shoot fast, you can get a continuous high of 8 frames per second or 30 frames per second with a crop, which I didn't bother playing with so much, but I think you'll appreciate that it's just good fun with the continuous high, and it did seem to track really well. It followed stuff, the little bits that I gave it a go on, I was happy with, and I'd actually be confident using this with walking down the aisle, wedding shots, walking up and down. You know what, this camera would be absolutely no problem for me and my style, documentary style of wedding and event shooting. Absolutely no problem. And for the moments that I need it to go fast or faster, yeah, handles it very well. And it didn't take particularly long to clear the buffer with the right card in there. I mean, 8 frames per second, absolutely fine. It whirs along nicely. Oh, that charging via the USB 3.1 and PD2, so that's a nice bit of upgraded technology right in there. So you've got it all really. It's a small, solid, fun-packed, and basically serious little mirrorless. It is the baby X-T30, and for most of you, it might be just what you need without going up to the X-T3 itself, potentially, if you're happy with the, let's not even say limits, because frankly, they're not limits, are they? These mirrorless cameras now, jam-packed with goodies. But remember, Fujifilm, what should really win you over is that amazing, natural image quality. The film simulations really cool, whether you're an Eterna fan, a monochrome fan with the different filters there, whether to bring out the sky, the sea, the greenery, a bit of rapping for you. It's all in there. Those JPEGs, it just gets better and better and better. In fact, when I travel, I only shoot JPEGs now. I can't be bothered. But if you needed to shoot raw and process in camera, you've got that too. There's a whole world of options. There's a lot of stuff you could talk about, but T30, baby X-T3, or let's be honest, X-T3's not so little brother. And when I say not so little, I'm not referring to the size. I just mean, you know, it's a cheaper, slightly less advanced. Anyway, now we want to hear your opinion if you've had your hands on this too. This is not a battleground. This isn't the old Nikon Canon argument. This isn't even a Sony versus the world argument. This is just a really nice, superbly performing, well built, let's just say camera, because who really cares what it says on the top? Fair? Right, I'm off. Kalinicta. I think it is. Efaristo. I really didn't do that well at that in a week in Cyprus with the language, but I tried. Anyway, I'll see you below.